I would like to extend a warm welcome to all members of the Cabinet, other members of the Council and officers in attendance at today's Cabinet meeting on the 4th of September 2024. Welcome to members of the public and the press who may be watching the meeting live on YouTube. I am Councillor Jill Cleary, Leader of the Council and Chairman of the Cabinet. I would now like to hand over to Democratic Services to read the housekeeping note.
Please note that this meeting is being broadcast live on the Council's website and on YouTube. It will remain available for a minimum of 12 months. I would remind those in attendance to use your microphone when speaking and remember to switch it off once you have finished. Please switch any mobile devices to a silent setting for the duration of the meeting. If the fire alarms ring, please can everyone leave the room immediately and use the nearest fire exit, but do not use the lift. Please go to the fire assembly point, which is located at the bottom of the car park by the garages. Thank you.
Apologies. None received. Thank you. My announcements. Firstly, can I take this opportunity to note the very sad passing of Councillor Keith Craze, a district councillor since 2019. All members will have the opportunity to reflect on Keith's contribution at our next council meeting. Moving on to the updates. On our housing priority, we have 16 new homes in Moor Close, New Milton nearing completion. 11 flats and houses are for social rent and 5 houses are for shared ownership, designed to help residents buy a home in stages. Applications are due to open in October. The homes meet high energy standards and include extra thermal insulation, triple glazing, solar panels, and heating provided by air source heat pumps. We are also supporting our residents more widely, becoming energy aware and reduce their bills through the New Forest Heat project, funded by the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and partnering with Community Energy South. You may also have seen we are improving protection along the coastline at Milford-on-Sea. 1,100 tonnes of rock are being delivered and will be placed in front of the seawall. Groins are now to be repaired and over 2,500 tonnes of shingle will be added to increase beach levels. And finally, we are delighted to follow 2 athletes from the New Forest representing the Great Britain team in the Paralympic Games. Alice Tighe is a Paralympic swimmer and world champion from New Milton, who secured gold and bronze medal. Aaron Phipps is a wheelchair rugby player from Totton, and the GB team narrowly missed out on a bronze medal. Aaron is on the Hampshire Talented Athlete Scheme, which is coordinated by our partners Energise Me. The scheme gives athletes free access to the gym and pool at participating centres to help with their training. We send our congratulations and wish them continued success as they represent our country and area. Thank you. Item 1, minutes. Do Cabinet members agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of August 2024 as a correct record?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do Cabinet members have any declarations of any pecuniary or any other interests in respect of the business of this meeting?
Nope.
None?
None.
Thank you. I note there's no public participation. So we are now on item 4, financial monitoring report. Portfolio holder is going to introduce, which is Jeremy Heron. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I'm very pleased to introduce the first of this year's financial year's financial monitoring reports, covering the first quarter from April to June. As you will see from the very start of the report, there are some recommendations to note the position of the General Fund, the HRA and the Capital. You will note that the General Fund remains buoyant. The HRA falls under a little bit of pressure, but nothing that it can't handle. And to be honest, very pleased with the way it's performing overall. And obviously the Capital, as we look forward to delivering on that. There are a few supplementary budget items within there for approval. But the more interesting one, I think, is the supplementary budget for the provision of green waste. Now, it is very, very rare that the portfolio holder for finance is pleased to see a supplementary budget request. But I have to say that in this exceptional time we do, the provision is for £125,000 for additional funding. But that is more than covered by the additional revenue that we are having in. And what amazing thing that our scheme has been so popular, so well taken up by our residents, so well liked, despite the curse of the wheelie bin. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Up until now, every time anyone's ever mentioned a wheelie bin, shock horror, and yet it is proving so incredibly popular with our residents across the whole of our community. I am so pleased. A real well done story for everyone. Working on through the paper, you will see that at section 6, we have the rephasing from last year's year and the details of that. And so a few and more detail on some of the additional costs, particularly open spaces, trees, which obviously has impacted across the service. I've already mentioned our garden waste. There is the one issue, obviously, of the environment for the Appletree Court East Wing repair, which is a necessity, but fortuitously, we have been able to find the money. The one that I will just pick up on, because I'm fairly confident that someone else may pick up on this within it, is obviously 18 with the car parking, where you will see that we unfortunately aren't quite hitting the levels that I would like to see. I would like the portfolio holder to back his ideas up there to get out to sell. But you will see that although slightly down on what we expected, our revenue is still up on previous years. So I'm still pleased with that one. As I say, not quite where we want it to be. If the portfolio holder could just get out there and sell a bit harder. It's obviously not working hard enough. On that, I think, obviously we have the capital expenditure listed and the changes, a few changes and variations with that. And I think at that point I will say I've finished on this. And any other questions or comments from other members? Thank you.
Right, let me go to Paul Whittles, Assistant Director Finance. Paul, do you want to add anything? Although I can't see him. It's Alan.
Chairman, I'll just step in briefly this morning. I know Paul very helpfully authored the report this morning. But yeah, I think to be fair, the portfolio holder's done a very thorough run through there. So I have very little to add other than endorsing the recommendations as per page 3. Thank you.
Cabinet, do you have any other comments? Councillor Jeff Blunden.
Yes, thank you, Leader. It's not very often I get excited about green bins, but I think the success of those is really good, and all credit to our staff that have been able to work and actually deliver what our residents want. So thank you for that. I note the car parking income is down a bit, but looking at previous years, you seem to get this from time to time, and it is very weather dependent, particularly on our coastal car parks.
Any other comments from the floor? Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah. Actually, I want to ask about car parking. Yeah. Clearly, it's that same that your projected income is down, but then again, if you raise the prices so much, not everybody wants to buy as many expensive clocks. It'd be really interesting to know if the sale of clocks had gone down. Perhaps you might be able to supply that information. You may not have it now. The question I want to ask about that is, because the income has gone down, are you considering raising the price of the clocks and the car parking charges again this year and further penalising motorists of New Forest?
I think that when we get round to reviewing the budget for the next year. Everything is always on the table. I think as an administration, you can't rule something out this early on in the stage, because that would be simply foolish. So yes, we did get behind with car parking charges in the past. I personally, and it's a personal opinion, wouldn't like to see us do that again, fall behind again. But nothing's in or out at this moment.
Thank you. Let me take you to the recommendations on page 3. Do Cabinet agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Right. Item 5, customer strategy. Again, portfolio holder intro, is Jeremy Heron.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yes, our customer strategy is presented here for its examination. The theme that runs through it is putting the people first. Absolutely, throughout the entire strategy, that is what we look to do, to serve the residents of the New Forest. It is an excellent strategy. It delivers on, I think, everything that we need to do. It looks to listening to our customers, to taking that feedback, to delivering it, for assuring them that although digitally is cost effective for this council, and it is a cost effective method of delivering our service, it is always possible to talk to someone in this council. Always. We will never, whilst I have any say in it, ever be at a point where you cannot actually speak to somebody, whether it be by telephone or face to face. It also covers a very, very important factor of working with our partners in the town and parishes, and that is vital to make sure that the face-to-face contact and the ability to talk to a human being remains. And with that, I don't think I have much else to add to it, except my thanks to the officers and staff who put it together so brilliantly. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the officer, Ryan Stephen, and see if you've got anything to add. Ryan?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ryan Stevens, Service Manager for Revenues, Benefits and Customer Services. I'm really pleased to bring this customer strategy today, which does set out our commitment to our customers to ensure we provide efficient, professional and easy to use services. The strategy has been developed following extensive research, including looking at the emails we've received, phone calls and speaking to our customers. This has enabled us to understand what our customers' needs are, why and how they are accessing our services, including the channels used and the reason for their contact, what their experience was, and also to understand how we can utilise technology to support our aims. As mentioned, the strategy does have a channel strategy of digital by design, as we know from the feedback that customers want to do more for themselves. But as stated by the portfolio holder, the strategy is very clear in that customers will still be able to access our services and contact us by phone and face-to-face, for example, supporting our vulnerable customers. So this strategy will ensure that nobody is excluded. We have undertaken lots of research and consultation. So we've consulted both internally and externally on the strategy, including with staff, our tenant involvement group, town and parishes, and the feedback that we've received has been incorporated into the strategy. We have developed a promise, standards, and the strategy has 4 key outcomes, which are linked to our 4 principles, which are putting the customer at the heart of what we do, providing a consistent experience, utilising technology to meet customer needs, and using the data we have to shape and improve our service delivery. The strategy has an ambitious action plan with lots of activities to support the strategy, and these have been aligned to our ICT work programme. So in summary, the strategy supports our corporate plan, it underpins our transformation programme, and will ensure that moving forward by investing in our staff and in technology to modernise our services, and by embedding a culture of having the customer at heart of what we do and being customer faces, we will provide the best possible experience for our customers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ryan. And I particularly like the words, nobody excluded.
Yeah.
Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a good customer strategy, and it's good to see that the council is committed to still having face-to-face engagement with people. But one of the things I'm not sure that it addresses, and if it does, I stand to be corrected, is that very many of our residents, particularly some of the more vulnerable ones, don't know what the council does and who they need to go to. And that's where members sometimes act as a signpost to show them. How can we as the council get that information out there better than we do? And this is something perhaps to consider, because a lot of people come to me in my, I'm sure every member gets them, residents, they said, well, what do I do about this? Who do I go to? And it's having a way of getting that through to people, which not all of them are maybe digitally astute. I think it's something that we need to consider.
I'm going to take you to Jeremy on that one.
Chairman, every single councillor in this room, or any councillor on this council, will be well aware that as far as a lot of the public concerned, the council is the council. They don't really distinguish between county or the town or the district. They just come to the council, and there is nothing. Personally, there's nothing that feels worse than trying to tell someone, I'm really sorry, that's not my job, I'm not that council. As part of our strategy, we don't want to lose anyone down the back of the sofa, as it were, on that. And an important part of the way in which we handle and deal with this process is that if they come through to our council with an issue that isn't within our realm, that we not only ensure that they get given the right information, but also that the information that they are given is passed across. We do not lose it. We do not say, I'm really sorry, that's a Hampshire County Council problem, and delete the email sort of thing. We do make sure that actually we do pass across and work to ensure that the information goes to the right department, and that we support our residents, whether it is a district, county or town issue. We try to explain and help them to understand the layers of local government and where they go. But in the end, we are the council. They are our residents. We need to support them, even if it isn't a service that we deliver directly. And we do ensure that they are passed and treated properly. And it's still difficult. I agree with you. We're not perfect. I wouldn't claim to be. I don't think there is a perfect situation, but we work to make sure that they don't fall through the cracks in the pavement on this one, and that we do deal with it.
And I can add, did you not go to our stand in the New Forest show? Because we had boards that said who does what. And I think it would be a very good idea if those boards did a little tour round all the parish offices so that they can sit there for a month and people go in, they'll get the idea. We also did, I can't remember what they're called, they're like Z cards with all that information on as well. So we could actually leave a few of those in information offices, and then everybody will be covered.
That's not actually quite what I meant. What I meant was that a lot of residents don't know what the council can do for them, rather than which council to go to. And it's how do we get that information out to them? It's actually a positive comment, is how we can get people who really don't know what they're doing to do it.
Can I just add to that I do hope that other organisations do signpost that, things like citizens' advice and such like that. If there's an area in which we can support, particularly the more vulnerable in our community, I hope that any organisation, anyone operating within it, in the district, do signpost us and say, look, we can help you, and that they do get in contact with us. But yes, again, we put this out. I mean, you know, every council tax rating has a list of it. You can't get everyone, you know, most people put it straight in the bin. You know, it's a way to improve recycling targets is to send out more paperwork with your council tax. But you can't help it. But we do, that doesn't mean you give in. You must continue to. And as I say, I hope all the other, not only we do as much as we can, but all the other organisations within the forest do signpost us and say that we will always be here to help our citizens and our residents.
And also our officer, Ryan Stevens, is so well known and works with all our partner organisations. I'm sure there's only, well, I don't think anybody will fall through the cracks. Right, Christine Ward.
I think as a council, we should be very proud of ourselves that we're still offering services that so many other people have withdrawn, and we're putting the customers first and engaging with them if they need to engage with us personally or face to face. Shame on the banks that have withdrawn all these services to people, but we're definitely going in the right direction, and let it continue. Thank you.
Right, with that. Oh, sorry, Councillor Dowd.
Thank you. Looking at item 25, there's lots of really positive comments about engagement, and by and large, I think we're all in agreement with that. It comes down to detail. Currently, there are 20% of people who don't get through to the end of the process when they make contact. So there is a little bit of work to be done there to improve that engagement. I've already mentioned about certain communities like the neurodiverse community having trouble, and it's not just the digital, it's making sure that people who are communicating with them understand the needs that they have and understand how to respond. So I'm not going to go into detail on that one, but I am a little bit concerned about the fact we still have people who are not getting through the whole process. So that's an area for improvement. Thank you.
Okay, we note your comments. Right, can I take you to the recommendations on page 17? Cabinet, do you agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 6, Christchurch Bay and Harbour Flood and Coastal Erosion Risk Management Strategy. Can I take the portfolio holder, Jeff Blunden, to introduce the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Leader. As portfolio holder, I fully support and endorse the recommendations within the report for adopting this Christchurch Bay and Harbour strategy. The strategy identifies the future risks that we and our communities face over the coming years, particularly as a result of climate change, sea level rise, and the increasing number of storms we are seeing. Crucially, the strategy identifies flood and erosion risk management measures to address this and mitigate against the impacts on our coastline, with identifying funding requirements. It is important for the Council to acknowledge the significant financial requirement to deliver these measures, and that there is no obligation on NFDC to fund these. However, we will take a leading role in looking to identify funding opportunities, working with our partners to develop an investment plan with the aim to secure the funding required. I would particularly like to echo the comments from the panel regarding the significant amount of work that's been undertaken by our excellent coastal team, working with BCP and our technical consultant in delivering this comprehensive coastal strategy.
Thank you, Jeff. And now take you to Steve Cook, our Service Manager Coastal. Steve, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would. Thank you. It seems like a long road to get here. We started this quite a long time ago. But yeah, so to sort of summarise a little bit, the huge amount of work that's gone into this. So the strategy is covering the area from Christchurch Harbour. So as Councillor Blunden said, with our neighbouring authority, BCP, through to the start of Hurst Spit. We're also engaged in a further strategy with the EA that then covers the area from Hurst through to the eastern side of Lymington River. And that's due for completion in around 2 years' time. So that covers our western side of the district. The eastern side of the district, or Lymington through to Redbridge, is potentially going to be picked up in a further strategy by the EA following completion of the current projects that are ongoing. But I think important to note, the greater risk that side is around flood risk, and that falls under the responsibility of the Environment Agency. So, as I said, yeah, we've been on this a long time, since 2021, with BCP and the Environment Agency. Strategy has been fully funded through grant and aid from central government. And now both authorities are looking to go through the adoption process before submission to the Environment Agency for their insurance and sign off, which is expected around early 2025. I think important to note, has already been mentioned, what the strategy doesn't do is come with any funding. It doesn't guarantee any funding, or does it commit NFDC to deliver any funding to these projects. And nor do we, as a Coast Protection Authority, have any statutory duty to undertake coast protection measures. So what we do is under permissive powers under the Coast Protection Act. So the strategy looks at long-term risk over 100 years, and that risk on property, assets, environment, and other infrastructure, and then considers approaches to managing those risks. What it does do is align with shoreline management plan policies, and the SMPs we have were set back in about 2010. But the other key bit is, with a strategic approach, we're not just looking at district boundaries, so we're spanning boundaries. The coastline doesn't work in districts, so options and solutions that are considered sort of span those boundaries, management units, and be able to work in conjunction with what's happening to the west and east of us. The defences we have, I'm still particularly thinking around Milford-on-Sea, so existing defences are now old, pretty old, 70 years old, so they're pretty much at their end of their life expectancy. And we've seen that in recent years where we've had some failures along the Milford frontage, as well as the storm impacts impacting on sort of beach volume losses, then the defence integrity and ground instability. As I said, more recently at Westover, we saw quite significant failure of the sea wall down there. So the risk, so for our frontage, NFDC, just shy of 1,300 homes identified at risk of erosion. Generally split about 50-50, that is, between the Barton frontage, the Hordle Cliff Milford frontage, and about 140 properties at risk of flooding at the far eastern end of the strategy around the Milford area. And then alongside that, obviously risks to car parks, public toilets, beach huts, other assets and infrastructure along that frontage. So the options have been considered, and that there are national and local options. They typically are the same solution, but they're delivered over different time periods. So that then makes a difference on the potential grant in aid that they may or may not attract. So broadly, without going into great detail, so for Barton frontage, the options are generally around cliff stabilisation and drainage works. And for Hordle Cliff through to Milford and the start of Hurst, around beach recharge, rock structures, seawall repairs. One of the key bits, and again, as Councillor Blunden mentioned, around the funding, so with the economic assessments that have been undertaken following the Treasury rules that we have to adhere to, the grant in aid levels that we're likely to get, so this is funding through central government, is around 11% to 26% of the total scheme cost, so very low. And that then means that balance, that funding gap, needs to be secured through partnership funding. So as a couple of examples, for Barton, the scheme broadly is around £27 million. That would only attract just over £3 million of grant in aid. So a funding gap of close to 24 million required to be filled. Hordle, depending on the options taken, we're looking at projects between 10 and 30 million. Again, with grant aid only in the order of about £4 million. So fairly significant funding gaps. What will happen is, as projects are refined, those costs will obviously be refined, and because they don't involve detailed design work at the moment. So there will be an element of refinement there, but I think it gives a broad balance of the scale of coast protection works. Last couple of bits is throughout, so since 2021, there's been a lot of engagement work. That's been with officers, with members, local communities and residents. Lots of really good attendance at meetings, particularly at Milford-on-Sea, Christchurch and Barton. And we've done those in person and online. And there will be a further engagement round in the new year once the strategy's been through the Environment Agency. So, yeah, finally, we're looking to take this through. I think to adopt BCP was sort of going through the process now through September and October, and then to take forward to look to develop investment planning, and we'll look to do that working colleagues within the district, obviously in our finance teams, within BCP and the Environment Agency as well, to try and see how those funding gaps can be secured. So yeah, that's a quick summary of what is a huge amount of work.
Thank you, Steve. Derek, I believe you have a question.
Yes, thank you. Not a question, just an observation, really. I mean, I want to congratulate them on a huge amount of work. I mean, it's been a tremendous job and it's still going on, of course. It does seem extraordinary to me that 70 years ago, we as councils could afford to put in defences, and now here today, we're not in the position to do so, which is a great pity, because, I mean, all this work must come to fruition. I mean, we've got to protect our coastline, whatever the weather throws at us, otherwise we will lose some of our coastal communities. And, you know, I just think that we do need, as a country, to start waking up to defending our coastline a bit more seriously. So I fully support it. Thank you.
Any other cabinet members wish to comment? No? I shall go to the floor with Christine Ward first, please.
Thank you. I really support this. Living in an area and representing an area which is so greatly impacted by weather conditions, and in Milford we've had everything thrown at us over the last few years, starting with the Valentine Day storms and going on. You know, we're losing beach, we're losing sea walls, Hurstspit, erosion on the cliff tops, beach huts being washed out to sea, and it just goes on and on and on. So I applaud Steve and his team for all the work that he's been doing with partners over the last few years, but also locally to repair all the damage that's been done in and around Milford over the last couple of years. And yeah, I applaud you. Thank you for that. Okay. Oh, and just one more thing. I did raise some concerns. I had some concerns in the past about the amount of cost. So I'm relieved to see in the recommendations in 3 that NFDC do not commit to the provision of any funding for the delivery of identified options. So thank you.
I think you've made Jeremy's day as well there.
Jeremy was smiling then.
Can I now go to Malcolm Wade, please?
Thank you, Jeremy. I think we should all pay tribute to Steve Cook and his team. A lot of work has gone into this, and I recognise that over the years. We should all accept this is something we should support, and it is needed, as I can only agree with the honourable member across the chamber. But whilst the Environment Agency is responsible, and I will always bang on about this point, for the eastern part of the coastline, the flooding, we have a responsibility for the residents, the very customers we talked about in the previous item. We do not want them to be flooded and to have to walk about in wellies every day. We know we have flooding over there, and I could once again request that this council engages with the Environment Agency, lobbies the Environment Agency, does all what it needs to get them to accelerate, to put in a strategy for the east of our district, the same as we have for the west. Thank you.
I'm going to go back to Steve Cook for an answer on this one.
Yeah, that's fine. And I've had some communication with Councillor Wade, and other waterside members just in the last few weeks. It's quite nice, or I'm quite pleased to say that for panel in January, I've lined up with one of the senior officers from the Environment Agency to attend and brief on forward plans for the eastern side of the district. Doesn't mean they're committing to anything, but at least they can come and they can hear concerns. So that's already on the agenda item for January for panel.
Brilliant, Steve. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Right, can I take you to the recommendations on page 44? Do Cabinet agree? Thank you. Item 7, Strategic Risk Register, which comes under me. So, as leader, I value the work undertaken by portfolio holders and executive management team to revise the Strategic Risk Register in light of the newly adopted Corporate Plan 2024 through to 2028. I would also like to note the valued input of the Audit Committee to this important governance process. It is important that we as Cabinet and ultimately the wider Council appreciate and understand the significant risks that may impact the Council and our communities going forward, and what risk management work is already underway. Due to the nature of these risks, they cannot often be reduced through addressing likelihood or impact to green, but I am reassured that the right actions are underway and look forward to the next review in line with the Council's risk management policy. I would now like to pass over to James Clark, the Council's Insurance and Risk Officer, for a fuller run through of the report. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to present the Strategic Risk Register report today. The document has undergone a thorough review, and in the first version following the new corporate plan for 2024-2028, as a reminder, this marks the beginning of the reporting cycle of the Strategic Risk Register, which outlines the mitigations, current control risk, and current circumstances relating to cross-cutting risks. To provide some insight into the consultation process for this work, the initial phase involved collaboration with service managers and the executive management team. Feedback from internal audit contributed to the changes made. One of the first updates was changing the column title to Further Control to Mitigate the Risk, clarifying that these actions aim to maintain the residual risk or foster improvement. Another modification included renaming the action owner, which was previously referred to as the risk owner. It was deemed more appropriate not to hold service managers accountable for cross-cutting risks. Thus, the post job title was used to reflect post holders in strategic roles. Additionally, I included a new column labelled Corporate Plan Priority Theme Code, abbreviated as CPTC. The column provides a targeted overview indicating that each mitigation risk action is clinically focused and aligned with the corporate plan. The work presented to the Audit Committee proved invaluable, with feedback addressing the recent global ICT outage, ensuring the document remains up to date as possible. Page 219 of the report pack, which is Strategic Risk 3, the relevant context updates have been made, including revisions to Risk Control A14. Points raised by the Audit Committee concerning Strategic Risk 7, which is on page 226 of the report pack. This relates to incidents like the water crisis and our outreach to the community, emphasising a coordinated strategy across multiple platforms, not just relying on social media. We're working closely with the community members and the commercial sector to provide any necessary assistance, reflecting an holistic approach. The updates related to this are articulated within A1 under the risk control to further control mitigate risk number 5. It is important to note While this document is intended for the next 6 to 12 months, it is a living document. Any future concerns will be addressed promptly, demonstrating that we do not wait for the next review cycle. And I hope this overview, insight into the changes made, are insightful, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, James. Cabinet, do you have any comments? Councillor Steve Davis.
Thank you, Leader. As you know, I'm quite fond of a risk register. I don't know why. I like spreadsheets as well. I'm delighted to say, though, that each of the 8 risks identified here have marked a step improvement in the outcome. So my congratulations, my commendations, in fact, to the whole of the team working on this. Is all the officers, the whole of the council have helped these improvements. So my thanks for that. I'm looking forward to the next 6 months, no pressure.
Thank you. Any other member of the Cabinet? No, I should take it to the floor. Councillor Steve Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. I think when you look at a report like this, and it's easy to be drawn to the red bars, which are quite scary when you look at them in some respects. But I think it's actually to congratulate the officers, because it brings openness and transparency to everything that might affect us as a council going forward, and actually shows that we have a great deal of preparedness to respond to situations as they arrive. So although there's red there, it's actually quite positive to have the red there to show that we're not eyes closed and not taking account of everything.
Thank you. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it's a well thought out risk register. I've no doubt about that. The question I want to raise about number 6, ability to be agile and shift focus in response to policy and national political change. I would challenge that leading statement is not correct. It should be any political change. We know that Hampshire County Council is about to have an even bigger deficit, 175 million. The impact of that will affect this council without any shadow of a doubt, one way or the other. We don't know how, but it's bound to. We could have a change in who runs the council. And are we saying that we do not have the ability to be agile and shift focus in that response? I'm sure that's not the case. So I would suggest that really that one, you should take out national and leave political change, because we are influenced by political changes both outside this organisation and potentially in it.
Kate Ryan.
Thank you. That's definitely something I think next time EMT consider updating, we can take into account. That is something that we do as the senior management team and the statutory officers, and would escalate any kind of way to mitigate those changes. For example, the lobbying that we've done around the HWRC proposals from Hampshire County Council, which we felt would have an impact on our service delivery. But yeah, I think, I'd be willing to say that we'll have a look at whether national and is fully describing what we want in that section.
Okay, can I take the Cabinet to recommendations on page 211? Do Cabinet agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. That completes our business for this morning. Thank you everyone for your attendance, and thank you very much to the officers.